Hey man, here's a truth that might sound counterintuitive, but it's the difference between being endlessly desired and endlessly used. If you want her to love you, if you want her to crave you, to respect you, to fantasize about you long after you've left the room, you need to do less, not more. You see, most men have been fed the lie that love is earned through effort, that if you just show her how kind, attentive, and available you are, if you shower her with affection, texts, time, and validation, she'll fall in love with your loyalty. But women don't love you for how much you give. They love you for the space you leave, the mystery you hold, the self-respect you protect. Because when you're doing less, you're not chasing, not pleading, not negotiating your value. You're simply standing in your own frame, letting her feel the vacuum, the pull, the unavailability, and that's what ignites obsession, not presence, absence. Every time you lean in too far, you take away her opportunity to lean in toward you. That imbalance becomes suffocating to her, even if you think you're being romantic. When she never has to wonder where you stand, when you make yourself the predictable, ever-available emotional butler, she loses the thrill. Not because she's heartless, but because certainty kills excitement. You've got to understand that feminine desire is born in mystery, not exposure. It's why she'll ignore the guy who sends her poems and paragraphs and obsess over the one who sends her two-word replies and disappears for a day. It's not logical, it's emotional. And that's the battlefield you're playing on, whether you like it or not. So when you think doing more will make her feel secure, you're actually robbing her of the emotional contrast she needs to feel drawn toward you. You're removing her hunger before she ever feels it. She's not falling for what you give, she's falling for what you hold back. Your silence is louder than your flattery. Your absence is heavier than your gifts. Your ability to detach is more seductive than 1,000 good morning texts. Because when you do less, you're signaling something primal: value. The man who does less is the man who knows he doesn't need to perform to be chosen. And that energy, it triggers a deep instinct in her. The instinct that says, why is he not trying to impress me? What does he know about himself that I don't? That curiosity, that uncertainty, that is the birthplace of female attraction. The truth is, the moment she's too sure she has you, she emotionally checks out. So instead of trying to prove how much you care, try proving how little you need her to care. Let her come to you. Let her try to figure you out. Let her love you for your absence, not your overpresence. Think about how women talk about the men they can't get over. It's never the guy who was too nice, too available, too compliant. It's always the man who was a little bit distant, the man who didn't text back right away, the man who had his own life, his own mission, his own energy, the one she could never fully predict. That's the man who lives in her head rent-free. And why? Because he did less. Not out of laziness, not out of cruelty, but because he didn't revolve around her. He had gravity, he was grounded, and she orbited him. That's the game, that's the polarity, that's the dynamic that actually works. Women don't fall for effort, they fall for presence. And presence doesn't mean constant access. It means when you are there, you're truly there. And when you're not, they feel it. That absence, that's where her feelings grow. Look, we're not saying you should treat her like trash or ignore her completely. That's not confidence. That's cowardice. Real masculine power is in restraint. It's in knowing that you could shower her with attention, but choosing not to. It's in withholding, not out of fear, but out of discipline. It's in understanding that you are the prize, not the pursuer. Doing less means you're not constantly proving, fixing, or adjusting yourself for her validation. You're simply being grounded, stable, unmoved. And from that stillness, she senses something she can't find in most men. A man who is not controlled by her reactions. A man who isn't trying to earn love like a reward. A man who already loves himself too much to beg for scraps. And that presence, that's what she's starving for, in a world full of desperate men handing their souls over in exchange for a glance. What happens when you do too much? You become her emotional crutch, her entertainment, her therapist, her comfort zone. And while that might sound like a good thing, it's actually the kiss of death. Because now she doesn't desire you, she depends on you. And dependency isn't attraction, it's obligation. She'll stay for convenience, not for craving. She'll appreciate you like she appreciates warm socks or a cozy blanket, but she won't lust for you, she won't obsess over you. because there's no challenge, no mystery, no risk of loss. That's the paradox. The more you do, the less valuable you appear, because value is never loud. Value doesn't chase. Value doesn't advertise itself. It's just known, just felt. So when you pull back, when you stop over-delivering, over-texting, over-explaining, she feels that gap. And in that gap, desire is born. Here's what most guys don't get. Doing less doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right things with precision. It means saying no when it's inconvenient. It means not over-explaining when she demands answers. It means not reacting emotionally when she throws a test your way. It means not jumping through hoops just because she's pouting. Doing less means acting from grounded truth instead of emotional need. It means you're the mountain, not the wind. You're not ghosting her. You're not playing games. You're simply not making her the center of your universe. And ironically, the moment you stop trying to win her over, she starts fighting to earn her place in your life. Why? Because now she feels the possibility of loss. And that possibility, that tension, that's what fuels feminine desire. When you stop overgiving, you stop being predictable. Predictability is safe, but it's also boring. And boredom is death to female attraction. She doesn't want to know everything you'll do before you do it. She doesn't want to receive 10 affirmations a day. She wants contrast. She wants to wonder. She wants the tension of not always knowing what's coming. That's why she obsesses over men who confuse her emotionally, men who leave gaps. She fills those gaps with her imagination, and what she imagines is always more powerful than what you could ever say. So when you do less, when you give space, you give her the chance to obsess, to fantasize, to miss you. That missing, that wondering, that's the fuel. But when you flood her with attention, availability and consistency too soon, you kill the mystery, you kill the chase. And she checks out without even realizing why. You're not being punished for your kindness, brother. You're being punished for your excess, for giving what hasn't been earned, for offering intimacy without scarcity, for pouring into a cup that never asked to be filled. Women need time. They need distance. They need contrast. You show your value not by offering more, but by walking away sooner, by not explaining yourself, by not debating your worth. The man who does less says, "This is me, take it or leave it." And that masculine indifference, that controlled detachment, it speaks louder than any compliment, because it tells her, you're not here to convince her. You're here to be witnessed. You're here to be respected. You're not a salesman. You're a standard. And standards don't negotiate. So many men ruin their chances by trying to be the perfect guy. They think if they just say all the right things, show up at all the right times, anticipate every emotional whim, then she'll finally see them as worthy. But worthiness isn't proven through performance, it's revealed in presence. She falls for the guy who doesn't try too hard. The one who doesn't flinch when she gets moody. The one who doesn't overreact when she pulls away. The one who doesn't get offended when she tests his patience. Because that man, he's unshakable. He's not reacting, he's responding. He's not performing, he's expressing. He's not proving, he's inviting. That calm, grounded vibe, that's the antidote to her emotional chaos. And if you can hold that frame without trying to fix her or impress her, she'll melt into it without even knowing why. Here's what no one tells you. When you stop chasing, she starts searching. When you stop explaining, she starts wondering. When you stop giving everything away too soon, she starts earning it. Women fall in love, not with the man who's always there, but with the man whose absence they can feel. The man whose energy lingers even when he's gone. The man who isn't afraid to walk away because his self-worth is rooted in something deeper than a relationship. And that scares her in a good way. It forces her to wake up, to reflect, to chase. You don't get love by proving you're enough. You get it by showing you don't need to prove anything at all. That quiet confidence, that silent power, it draws her in faster than any romantic gesture ever could, because it's rare. And women always chase rare. Stop managing her emotions. Stop walking on eggshells trying to be the man she wants. Because the truth is, she doesn't even know what she wants. Her emotions are waves, changing, evolving, colliding. She says she wants the guy who texts back instantly, but she chases the one who doesn't. She says she wants vulnerability, but she disrespects the man who bleeds too openly. She says she wants effort, but she leaves the man who gives too much of it. Why? Because she doesn't fall in love with what makes sense. She falls in love with what feels like power, and nothing feels more powerful to a woman than a man who can love her without needing her. That space you give, that emotional distance, that's not neglect, it's gravity. It's masculine containment, and she either rises to meet it or she fades. You're not cold for pulling back. You're not heartless for protecting your energy. You're not cruel for choosing yourself first. In fact, that's what awakens her deepest respect, because it shows her she's not the center of your universe, you are. And any man who's centered in himself, who doesn't need permission to feel whole, who doesn't collapse just because a woman withdraws, that man is irresistible, because he's stable, rare, grounded. Women don't want to lead emotionally. They want to test you to see if you'll lead. They want to throw chaos and see if you'll stay calm. They want to pull away and see if you chase. And the second you do, the second you bend, react, beg, they lose all the attraction they didn't even realize they had. So don't flinch, don't overfunction, just stay still. Let her dance around your gravity. A woman falls in love with a man's boundaries more than his affection. Anyone can text good morning. Anyone can compliment her beauty. But only a high-value man can say no. Only a grounded man can say, I'm not available tonight without guilt. Only a man rooted in his mission can walk away from drama, demand peace, and still keep his heart open. That's the paradox. You give less, but what you give is rich, deep, potent. Your attention becomes rare and therefore sacred. Your time becomes earned, not assumed. And in that scarcity she blossoms, not because she's being deprived, but because she's being challenged to rise. And women don't fall in love with comfort, they fall in love with growth. So stop giving easy access, stop performing, and watch how quickly her energy shifts when you become the one she has to earn. Doing less forces her to do more, not just in effort, but in reflection. When you're not constantly texting her, validating her, chasing her, she has to sit with herself, with her own feelings, her own insecurities, her own attraction. She has to face the tension, and in that silence she starts to ask the real questions. Why am I thinking about him so much? Why do I care that he hasn't messaged me back yet? Why does his detachment feel so powerful? That's how you create emotional gravity. Not by flooding her inbox, but by giving her space to feel your absence. The man who does less becomes the man she can't stop thinking about. Not because he ghosted her, but because he refused to give himself away without reciprocity. That standard, that stillness, that's what makes her chase. You've been told that love is sacrifice, that love is about giving endlessly without expecting anything in return. But that's not love. That's codependency. Real love is earned. Real love is reciprocal. Real love is fueled by respect, not desperation. So if you want her to love you, stop bleeding your energy into someone who hasn't earned your loyalty. Stop giving her relationship benefits when she hasn't even proven consistency. Doing less is about honoring your value. It's about saying, you want access to me, then show up. Stay steady, match my effort. And if she doesn't, you don't react. You don't lecture. You don't punish. You simply move on. Because your love is not free, it's precious. And when a woman senses that you're a man who doesn't give himself away cheaply, that's when she truly starts to value you. You're not supposed to rescue her. You're not supposed to solve her emotional puzzles. You're not supposed to decode every mixed signal and make her feel safe while she tests your patience. You're supposed to remain the anchor, the lighthouse, the grounded presence that doesn't bend with her mood swings. Doing less means you don't overanalyze. You don't chase validation. You don't seek her emotional approval. You observe, you lead, you move when it's time, and you pause when it's not. That restraint, that discipline, that's where masculine energy lives, and she feels it in her body, in her mind, in her nervous system. That calm, steady energy pulls her out of her chaos. And while she may fight it at first, deep down, it's all she ever wanted. A man who doesn't bend to her fantasy, but invites her into his clarity. Most guys are too afraid to lose her, so they overcompensate, they smother, they give too much too soon, and in doing so, they destroy the polarity. But here's the secret, when you're willing to lose her, you rarely do, because that energy of being complete with or without her is intoxicating. It triggers her curiosity, it makes her question her own value, it flips the script. Now she's the one thinking about you at night. She's the one refreshing the messages. She's the one wondering what you're doing and who you're with. Not because you manipulated her, but because you chose yourself. That choice, that unapologetic loyalty to your own path, that's magnetic. That's rare. And in a world full of men trying to please her, the man who's at peace without her is the one she can't forget. Here's what doing less teaches her: that your love is not something she can command with emotion, that she can't guilt you into action, that you're not emotionally programmable, that you don't jump when she pulls. And that truth, it shakes her in the best way. It forces her to approach you with reverence, with care, with presence. And that's when love starts to bloom. Not when she feels like she controls you, but when she realizes she must rise to meet you. When she feels that your standard won't bend just because she's beautiful, that your boundaries won't collapse just because she's sad, that your mission won't stop just because she's available. That integrity, that devotion to truth, that's what makes a man unforgettable. Not how much he gives, but how much he holds. Stop apologizing for doing less. Stop explaining your silence. Stop feeling guilty for not texting back instantly. You're not rude, you're rare. You're not distant, you're disciplined. You're not cold, you're centered. That's the shift. When you stop needing to be liked and start focusing on being respected, everything changes. Women don't remember the men who gave them the most attention. They remember the ones who made them feel something. And that feeling, that emotional rise, that tension of uncertainty and safety, that only comes from a man who knows how to pull back, how to give space, how to move with precision. And when you master that rhythm, when you stop flooding and start flowing, she falls, not for your effort, but for your energy. Women fall in love with men who protect their peace. And protecting your peace means you don't let her emotional storms dictate your state. You don't text back in a panic. You don't beg for understanding. You don't pour out your soul just because she's distant. You observe, you adapt, you stay grounded, and that calm energy, that makes her feel safe, even if she doesn't admit it. Because deep down, women want to feel held, not coddled, not managed, held, energetically, emotionally, spiritually. And you can't do that if you're always reacting. You can't do that if you're always chasing. You do that by doing less, by being more. Doing less isn't about playing games, it's about living in truth. The truth is, you're not supposed to be her emotional janitor, her entertainer, her ego boost. You're supposed to be her mirror, her anchor, her challenge. And challenge requires contrast, stillness, gaps. When you give her everything up front, you rob her of that challenge. You rob her of the growth. And that's why she leaves. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you made it too easy, too predictable, too soft. Real men aren't easy. They're earned. Slowly, through patience, through consistency, through effort. So stop being the solution, be the standard. Let her figure out if she's ready to meet it. Love that's earned is valued. Love that's given too quickly is abused. You don't teach a woman how to love you by doing more. You teach her how to love you by showing her what you won't tolerate, by walking away when your standards aren't met, by not rewarding bad behavior with more attention, by not pleading with her to see your worth. That's what doing less looks like. It's self-respect in motion. And when a woman sees that, feels that, it changes her. It makes her think twice before taking you for granted. Because she knows this man, he's not afraid to walk away. And that's the man who stays on her mind. That's the man she'll come back to. That's the man she'll respect, even if it takes her time to realize it. You want her to fall in love? Then stop showing her how much you care, and start showing her how much you care about yourself. That shift changes everything. She doesn't need another man to pedestal her. She doesn't need another emotional vending machine. She needs polarity. She needs tension. She needs the masculine container that allows her to be feminine. And that container? It's built through restraint, through control, through boundaries, through stillness. That's what doing less gives her. Not coldness, but structure. Not detachment, but depth. And when you master that energy, she melts. Not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying at all. In the end, brother, doing less is about doing differently. It's about shifting from performance to presence, from proving to protecting, from chasing to choosing. And when you live in that energy, when you no longer need her love to feel worthy, you become the man she can't forget. Not because you begged for her affection, but because you embodied something, she rarely finds a man who doesn't lose himself to gain her. That's the truth. If you want her to love you, do less. Give her space to feel, time to miss, room to wonder. Let her come to you. And when she does, meet her with depth, not desperation. Because a man who does less always gets more.